You're listening to a podcast powered by WOBI.
Hello and welcome to the WOBI podcast, where we uncover ideas, stories, and strategies that inspire leaders and empower companies to evolve, thrive, and make a lasting positive impact. My name is Sophia, and I'll be your host for this episode. Today, we're diving into the world of networking, offering you a practical guide to mastering the art of building meaningful connections that last. Over the next few minutes, we hope you'll walk away with practical tools and ideas to show up with confidence, engage in great conversations, and build relationships that grow into communities. Communities where ideas flow, collaborations spark, and people feel part of something bigger than themselves. Let's start from the beginning. When we think about networking, it's easy to picture it as just collecting contacts, but that's way too surface level. Real networking is about building confidence and trust, exchanging value, and turning simple conversations into meaningful relationships that open up real, two-way opportunities for growth. To help you get there, we've broken this episode into 3 sections. First, we'll talk about you, how to prepare before stepping into a conversation, let go of those awkward, what do I even say moments, and show up with curiosity, clarity, and a solid sense of what you want and what you bring to the table. Next, we'll get into how to break the ice, what to say, and what to definitely avoid, and how body language and small cues can make a big difference when trying to genuinely connect with others. And to close, we'll get into how to build relationships that go beyond that first conversation and actually last. We'll talk about follow-ups, everyday networking, and how to turn one good chat into something much bigger, a real connection, a future opportunity, and a sense of community. All right, let's jump into it, shall we? Why network in the first place? The million-dollar question. Well, here's the thing. Networking is one of the fastest ways to expand how you think and to open doors you didn't even know existed. Some of the best opportunities happen in the most unexpected, serendipitous ways. You start a conversation, and suddenly, you're seeing things from a whole new angle. You've been there, haven't you? And it's not just anecdotal. Research published at Harvard Business Review has found that people with strong networks tend to earn higher salaries, get promoted more often, and have greater career success overall. Turns out, those chats can really move the needle. But here's the part we don't talk about enough. Networking isn't only about professional gains, it actually helps you grow as a person. That moment when you introduce yourself, lean in, and genuinely listen builds confidence. It helps you become more empathetic. It lets you leave behind shame or self-doubt and be fully present. And here's the spark that makes it all shine. All that growth, both personal and professional, starts to multiply because the more real connections you build, the more you become part of a community. A community where people support each other, share knowledge, collaborate, and build things none of us could do alone. That's the real power of networking. Now that we've covered why networking matters, let's get into what this episode is really about, how to actually do it well. So let's kick off with the first step. It all starts with you. Before jumping into a conversation, take a moment to reflect on your strengths, your interests, and what you can genuinely bring to the other person. Ask yourself, what am I really good at? What topics or ideas light me up? And what's something valuable I could offer someone else? By the way, that could be experience, insight, or even just a fresh perspective. Once you've got those answers in mind, think about how you'd share that in a way that feels real. Instead of memorizing the classic elevator pitch, try to adapt to the moment by having in the back of your sleeve a quick story, a lesson, or even a mistake you made. If you're up to creating quick rapport, why not share the purpose that drives you? That's what people connect with. That's what makes you memorable. And if it feels a little vulnerable, that's fine too. Vulnerability makes you human, and as Brené Brown puts it, vulnerability is not weakness, but the greatest measure of courage. If you show up with intention, curiosity, and something real to offer, you're already halfway there. So you've already reflected on what you bring to the table. Now it's go time. You're about to walk into a conversation, or maybe someone's walking up to you. It's the moment of truth, the one chance you have to make a first impression. According to research, first impressions happen fast and tend to stick. But no need to panic. With just a dash of awareness and a pinch of mindfulness, you can make that first impression a positive one. Here are a few tips to help you do just that. It is key that you watch your body language because you might be saying a lot without saying a word. Stand tall, make eye contact, and smile naturally. Try not to cross your arms too much, as it can come off as closed off, even if you don't mean it. Another good tip is to dress appropriately for the context. It's not about what you wear, but where you wear it. Did that sound like a tongue twister? Either way, aim to feel confident and comfortable. And one last piece of advice. Be mindful of your attitude. Listen with genuine curiosity and focus on showing interest rather than trying to be interesting. As Stephen M.R. Covey says, seek to bless, not to impress. There's nothing more engaging than someone who's authentic and real. And here's a reminder that says it all. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. That's Maya Angelou, and she couldn't have said it better. So be present, be kind, and make every interaction count. Before heading into any networking event, it's super important to set clear goals. Whether you're looking for new ideas or inspiration, to meet new clients, gain market insights, find potential collaborators, or even just have a good conversation, take a minute to ask yourself, what do I actually want to get out of this? That kind of clarity helps you focus your energy, make smarter choices, and prioritize your time, especially when the schedule is tight. That said, don't fall into the trap of over-planning. Leave space for spontaneous moments, the kind that happen while you're waiting for coffee, between sessions, or during casual chats. Honestly, those unexpected conversations, they're often the ones that really make the difference. Also, try to get a sense of who's going to be there. Not just the general audience, but the actual people, the names behind the roles. Social media can help, but if you're part of the WOBI community, it's even easier. Through the WOBI app, you can search for attendees with similar interests, match with them, and start connecting even before the event begins. Once you've spotted a few people you'd like to connect with, don't overthink it and just make the first move. A simple personalized message or meeting request sent in advance can turn a cold introduction into a warm hello when you finally meet face to face. And here's the best part. It doesn't have to stop with just one event. The WOBI app lets you network all year long. You can keep discovering new people, spark ongoing conversations, and build real relationships that grow over time. So now you've got a clear idea of what you bring to the table and how to show up with confidence. Perfect! Now let's talk about what comes next, and that is breaking the ice. Whether you're the one making the first move or someone's reached out to you, how do you actually start the conversation and make it feel natural? It doesn't matter if you're more introverted or extroverted. Introducing yourself to someone new can feel awkward. Sometimes we get shy or that little voice of self-doubt creeps in. Totally normal. But here's the thing, what sets great networkers apart, and honestly great leaders too, is their ability to push through that discomfort. If I didn't convince you with that, let me remind you something and give you a few tips. Most people actually want to connect and speak up if you approach them. It can help to set a small, doable goal, like talking to at least one new person at every event. And you can start practicing this in everyday life. Striking up a quick chat at the coffee shop or with someone new at work. It all adds up. It's okay if you don't have chemistry with someone. Just because it didn't work out once doesn't mean you are bad at networking. Try again and continue. The goal isn't to be liked by everyone, but to find the right people with whom you can build meaningful, mutually beneficial connections. So when you do find someone you want to connect with, the next step is knowing how to start a conversation and keep it alive and interesting. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. The best conversations happen when you focus on the other person. Listen actively, ask follow-up questions, and show genuine interest. What can be helpful is a simple mindset shift from what can I get to what can I learn. This small tweak can absolutely transform your networking experience. And speaking of that, let me introduce you to my friend Mark, who will give you some conversation starters that actually work.
What inspired you to attend this event? What's the most interesting thing you've learned today? I saw you're working on some really interesting projects. I'd love to hear more about it.
Building on this, Charles Duhigg suggests asking deep questions to start and have more engaging, meaningful conversations. And believe me, as a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, he knows quite a lot about how to effectively communicate and connect with people. Let's hear his recommendations.
The beginnings of conversations are really, really important. There are some questions known as deep questions that are more powerful than others. A deep question is something that asks us to describe our values or our beliefs or the experiences that are important to us. And these deep questions, they can be pretty easy to ask. They sound daunting, but it can be as easy as meeting someone and saying, "What do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm a lawyer." "Oh, really? What made you decide to go to law school? Do you love practicing the law? Like, what's your favorite case?" When you ask questions like that, what you're asking them are, what are the values that led you to this career? What are your beliefs that brought you to law school? Tell me about the experiences that have shaped who you have become. These deep questions are incredibly powerful and incredibly easy to ask because, first of all, studies show us that people love answering deep questions. They love being asked about their values, their beliefs, and their experiences. But the deep questions are also powerful because they allow us to be vulnerable. They allow us to expose who we really are. Instead of asking, "Where do you work?" say, "What do you love about your job?" Instead of asking, "Where'd you go to high school?" ask someone, "What was high school like?" These questions don't seem intrusive. They don't seem like they're overly formal, but they invite the other person to tell us a little bit more about who they are.
However, and like we discussed earlier, not every conversation will click, and that's totally fine. Not every interaction needs to lead to something big to be worth it. Sometimes the real value lies in the act of showing up, being open, and exchanging a few words. Every conversation, whether it sparks something or not, is part of the process. This is the reason why you have to know how to exit a conversation gracefully. One option is to introduce the person to someone else, helping them grow their network. Or you can simply wrap it up with something like,
It was a pleasure meeting you, Sophia. Let's exchange LinkedIn profiles to connect and stay in touch. It'd be great to continue our chat soon.
Now, in this third and last section, let's shift the focus to how to build and nurture relationships that actually last. Or to say it differently, let's explore how to turn a first nice to meet you into something real and meaningful. The kind of connection that leads to collaboration, support, shared growth, and maybe even a few unexpected opportunities down the road. So how do you make that happen? First things first, the follow-up. No one enjoys getting a bland copy-pasted message. If you really want to stand out, your follow-up has to feel personal because people want to feel seen and heard. So when you reach out, reference something you actually talked about. Maybe a moment from your conversation, a shared interest, or something they mentioned that stuck with you. You can take it a step further by sending a helpful article, podcast, or resource that connects to what you discussed, or that you think they might find interesting. Little touches like that go a long way. If the vibe was good, you can even invite them to grab a coffee, hop on a quick video call, or let them know about an upcoming event you'll be at to keep the conversation going. Here's what a good follow-up message could sound like.
I really enjoyed our conversation about the impact of AI on customer experience at WOBI's previous event, especially your perspective on client empowerment. I'd love to stay in touch and keep exchanging ideas. I'm attending the next WOBI members event. Would love to catch up with you there. Looking forward to staying connected.
And if you're ever not sure what to say, you can always send them this WOBI podcast and say, "Thought this might be right up your alley." Last but not least, here's a final pro tip for networking. Be active on social media before and after the event. It keeps you visible, shows you're engaged, and helps build your personal brand in a way that feels natural. Plus, you never know who might come across your post and reach out. It's easy to think of networking as something you only do a couple of times a year at big business events, but the truth is, it's something you can practice every single day. Building community starts right where you are, with your team, your department, or with other colleagues. Real relationships are built in the everyday moments, so how can you make the most of them? Well, you can start small, like inviting a colleague you don't usually work with for a coffee or a quick virtual chat. And no, that doesn't mean awkwardly rushing over to someone's desk out of the blue. Just take advantage of those casual in-between moments like coffee breaks, elevator rides, or spontaneous hallway chats. Another great way to connect is by joining a cross-functional project or getting involved in an internal community. Or even better, share your expertise during a team meeting or host a mini session where others can learn from you. And this one's big. Don't wait until you need something to reach out. Nobody likes the only when they need something kind of networker. Real connections come from showing up consistently, not just when it's convenient. And by the way, here's something that might surprise you. Workplace relationships don't just make collaboration easier, they actually make us happier. Elizabeth Dunn, a leading researcher in happiness and well-being at the University of British Columbia, has studied what sets happy people apart and how to boost this amazing feeling at work. Let's hear what she has to say.
One of the only things that very happy people seem to have in common is that they have strong social relationships. In my own work, we've demonstrated that even seemingly trivial social interactions can actually make a difference for our feelings of happiness. So for example, on a typical day, my feelings of happiness may be shaped not only by my interactions with my husband or my best friend, but it turns out also by the friendly chat that I have with the barista at my local Starbucks who makes me my perfect cappuccino, or this guy I always see at the dog park who kind of looks like his dog. If even chatting with the barista at Starbucks makes a difference for our mood, you can imagine how important our social interactions and relationships at work might be. And in fact, my colleagues recently quantified this in a really incredible study of thousands of people across 37 different countries. Participants in the study were asked to rate their satisfaction with their jobs, so really getting at their happiness specifically in the workplace. The single best predictor of job satisfaction was people's interpersonal relationships at work, followed by having an interesting job and, of course, pay. So this begs the question then of how we can strengthen interpersonal relationships in the workplace. I think some of the most compelling research on this topic has been done by my good friend and colleague, Shelley Gable at UCLA. She's demonstrated that when people share positive events with each other at work, they end up experiencing greater happiness and higher job satisfaction.
So that was one last tip and maybe one final push in case you weren't already convinced to bring your best self to every networking opportunity. What we hope you take away from today isn't just a bunch of practical tips on how to communicate better, although those are definitely useful, but it's the idea that networking is a lifelong practice, one built on trust, curiosity, and generosity. The WOBI podcast is all about sharing ideas and actionable tools to help you lead better, grow your organization, and make a lasting positive impact. And if there's one thing we want to stick with you today, it's this: the power of building communities. Because when you build real relationships, you're not just opening doors. You're becoming part of something bigger than yourself. A global network of leaders who learn from each other, collaborate across industries, and shape the future together. Do you have a networking event coming up where you can put all of this into practice? I mean, I'm not trying to create FOMO. Okay, maybe just a little. But being part of a global community of business leaders is one of the benefits of joining WOBI. And we're packed with opportunities to connect because we are running networking events for our members all year round. Take a look at the upcoming events section in your WOBI app and start turning everything we've talked about today into real connections that truly make a difference. Will I see you at the next WOBI's networking event? I'll leave you with that. Until next time, take care and happy networking.